Welcome everyone. Ideation tools and techniques. Remember, I'm talking about ideation tools and techniques from the perspective of a leader. So, the agenda is something very similar. We need to understand the different types of team leaders, understand their roles, their responsibilities of an effective team leader, describe the leader's roles in resource management, describe delegation process thereby, describe strategies for team leaders to include briefs, huddles, and debrief meeting perhaps. Describe how effective team leaders facilitate conflict resolutions. Identify the barriers, tools, strategies, and outcome of the leadership, perhaps. But that is what we are looking out here. You look, the performance is the epitome of the leadership. And how does the leadership performs? By only following three dictums. One is communication. Two is extending support. The third one will be monitoring of the situation as on when on things. If these three skills are present in an individual, that individual will turn out to be an excellent leader perhaps. What are those three skills? Communication, mutual support, or should I say team building, perhaps situation monitoring. These are the skills that we're looking into here, and to be combined with your upbringing in terms of knowledge and attitude, perhaps, and that will actually relate to a wonderful performance of the leader. So, leaders ideation, there are two different types of leaders altogether. One, which is situational, any team leader who has a skill to manage the situation, and probably he or she might not be trained for it, but it comes naturally to him or her. It's the instinct that takes over. And then there are something called designated leaders. These are the person assigned to lead, to organize a designated core teams, establish clear goals, facilitate open communication, teamwork among the team members as on when basis. So there are two types of leaders, designated and situational. What are the effective tools and what are the techniques that makes a person much more impactful? One that can organize a team, articulate clear goals, make decisions through collective inputs of member, empower member to speak up and challenge when appropriate, actively promote and facilitate good teamwork, are skillful at conflict resolution thereby. Now, these are the things that needs to be noted down. These are what makes a leader effective. These are the tools that our leaders employ as on when on basis, articulating clear goals, making decision, empowering members, actively facilitating teamwork, skillful at conflict resolution. In short, organize is has the ability to organize a team. So resource management is a strategy in where achieving a workload balance within and across the team in a unit, and that will have a just equity for every team member. They will be motivated to see the end of the tunnel all but together. So refers to people, refers to knowledge, refers to information. Can this be shared? Can this be percolated? Can this be transferred from one another? The materials, the time can be drawn to accomplish a task. Goals is to prevent workload situation that compromises situation awareness and increase the risk of error thereby. Look what have I said. I have actually depicted on your screen penguins because by through a naked eye, if you want to look into it, you cannot distinguish one penguin from another. Apart from the slight variation in the weights, everyone looks identical. And that is what human capital is all about it. As a leader, can you focus on your team? Yes, the core team leader would be passing on the information, not only about the individual, but also about that family. Plan of caring them, taking care of it, facilities them, extending time and probably equipment, equipping them all together. Now, this is core team leader who is not only focusing on their team but their unit in totality. Whereas when there are team leaders who would be obsessed with workflow, now they are coordinating team leaders, passing on the information, both administrative and facilities. They are time bound, probably always keeping a check on the stopwatches thereby. The equipment, the resident flow, and other department coordination has been done with the people, the leaders who are focused on the workflow process. Let me talk about delegation, methods of redistributing tasks. probably assignments. When more assignments, more work, more responsibilities are being given, now can it be distributed uniformly across the team member? Because that will make the team gel together in a better fashion. Process include four steps: decide what to delegate, decide to whom to delegate, communicate clear expectation, and definitely request for a feedback. Now, these are the four steps to delegate: as to what to delegate, whom to delegate, uh, clear expectations of goals, clarity has to be there, and probably if there are any feedback, if there are any impediment, if there are any reservation, needs to be voiced upon. The ideation tools and technique. Effective leader cultivate desired behaviors. Team behavior I'm talking about. Desired implementation or development of skill thereby. Now, how do you go about it? Have an open heart. Talk with one another. Share your information. Probably, if you can walk the talk, nothing like it. A leader who is a role model, who is effective cueing to the team members to use a prescribed teamwork behaviors, prescribed teamwork skill. Being constructive and timely feedback is the hallmark of a great leader. Facilitation of briefs, huddles, debriefs, and conflict resolution does helps shape the leader's credibility. We're talking about the team events. In cases of team events, how does a leaders would be impacting upon the tools and the technique? Let's say he or she would be planning everything into the brief and percolating in the very early on in the meeting itself. During the process, there would be a lot of huddles. Huddles are nothing but short and sweet team meetings with respect to a problem, with respect to a issue that needs attention of every member. So huddles would be there for only problem solving. And after the completion of the task, we can always, the team leader will ensure that there is a debrief. They do not disintegrate without a debrief. This is where you will like to point out the process improvement. This is where you acknowledge the contributions of the team member. And this marks the differences between a great leader and a good leader. Leaders are responsible to assemble the team, facilitate the team events. Remember, anyone can request for a brief, for a huddle, or even for a debrief. So, ideation briefs would be all about planning, form the team, designate the roles within the team member, the responsibilities, establish climate and goals, engage team in a short and a long term planning as an on-one basis. Leaders usually initiate the planning process. Team members are included in the planning process. Team members have common understanding of the problem and their roles. How do we go ahead with it? Leaders usually does the same thing. We're talking about hurdles, problem solving. Now, in problem solving, we always have an ad hoc touch base meeting to regain situation, understanding where are we moving, how are we moving, is the pace good enough. So we have those touch base meeting every now and then. Discuss critical issues, emerging events, anticipate outcome, and probably likely contingencies thereof. Assign resources, express concern, what can be done as on when on basis. Let me talk about process improvement. Briefs and informal information exchanges. Feedback session occurs every now and then. It can be at every event, at the end of every shift, at the beginning of every shift. Designed to improve teamwork skills, nothing beyond that. Designed to improve outcomes, nothing beyond that. And accurate reconstructions of key events. Analysis why the event has occurred. What should be done to be done differently next time you are on there. So let me give you a checklist to debrief. Every time you have a meeting, every time you have an event, and every time things have been to be disembarked or disintegrated, can we have a checklist? Let's say, was the communication clear? Let's say roles and responsibilities, where it either briefed accordingly, whether it was understood by all the team members, where every team were on the same platform as far as situation awareness was concerned. Workload distribution. Did somebody enjoy a more workload or less responsibility? More responsibility and less workload. What we are looking into it, are there trade-offs or are they one and the same thing? Did we ask for any other assistant perhaps per se? Wave of the errors, where the errors were made, who made it, how did you overcome it, how can it be avoided in future endeavors. Now, these are the debrief sessions that needs to be taken care of. And last but never the least, the most important thing is to appreciate what went well, what should have changed, and what can be improved as a result. These are the debrief checklists that needs to be attained altogether. Facilitating conflict tools and resolution technique. Effective leaders facilitate conflict resolution technique through two things. One is the two challenge rule, the alternative test that comes around it. How else can we do about that? Which is the best method, perhaps? How do we go about? As in, let's say if you have an option, a situation altogether, is it the type A problem, the solution, type A option, the best way to the solution, or type B, the alternative option that goes to the solution? Perhaps. Now, how do you go around it? This is what is required. Then we have the deck script. Can it be the leadership being described altogether? What is being done and how do we go about it? Whether it's a group of individual to influence, whether it's a guide to be followed, whether other members in the organization chipped in accordingly or not. Effective leaders are also assisted by helping team members master conflict resolution technique. There should be less, in fact, zero conflict as far as work in progress are concerned. Conflict can happen. It might happen at the beginning of the event, at the after the end of the event, but during the event, things might go as smoothly as planned. People might appreciate, people might not, but let us keep that thing in our mind and probably resolve it either in the briefing session or in the debrief session. So helping team members master conflict resolution technique and serving as a mediator. A leader is a person who should ensure that he, perhaps she, should command enough amount of respect among the team members. So, what are the barriers and what are the tools and strategies and what can be the outcomes, if I say so? Let's say the first and the topmost barriers is hierarchical control. The barriers might be lack of resources, or should I say lack of information. Often the resources and information are one and the same thing in today's present scenario. Then we have something called an ineffective communication. People might be saying something or wanted to mean to say something and end up saying something else. Now that is what ineffective communication is all about. You are not transferring the thoughts that is crisscrossing your mind. And yes, of course, barriers, or the major barriers, are conflict. Now, the tools are absolutely stated to you, people. All the audience are aware of the tools. That is meetings, which means briefing, huddle, and debriefing before the before the event, during the event, and post the event. Now, these are tools and strategies. Essentially, the word terminology that needs to be spoken about is communication, communication, and communication. Outcome would be shared mental models. Everybody is on the same page. Adaptability, everybody knows what to do in case some mishap occurs. Team orientation, sense of camaraderie would be built in, and most importantly, about the mutual trust. So yes, the in a nutshell, empower team members to speak as freely as possible, ask as number of questions as possible, use resources efficiently to maximize team performances, balance workload within the team, delegate tasks or assignment as and when appropriated, conduct briefs, huddles, debrief. I am again telling it to you, the conflict resolution techniques remain the two challenge rule and the desk script by the by sense. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. I'm sure you must have agreed to the all the things that have been discussed in this video. Thank you for watching the video.